So this is it. And there's so nothing else to say, really. It's just unbelievable. I mean, literally, there's just no one to believe that this is it. And then there's no one not to believe it either. This is just it. There's nothing else. And there's no nothing else. There's only what's happening. So whatever is said about this is actually not said about this, because there's just no this. There's no this to be found. There's no enlightening or enlightenment moments. There's no aha moment. There's no realization that will help a character come closer to this. Or there's no moment of this is it. Because every moment is it already. And every moment is completely empty. It's not an actual moment. It's empty of a person. It's empty of realness. It's empty of anything that one character can seemingly think of. It's empty of a realness to a character. I'm not suggesting here anything should go away. I'm not suggesting anything, actually, not even suggesting anything. This is literally just a description, a spontaneous description of what is seemingly happening. You could say what comes through this character's head. But if I say it like that, it seems like it can be heard that someone is actually saying it. You know what I'm saying? It's just all I'm saying. Nobody is doing it. So there isn't any choice in there. Choice does not appear. They can be seemingly choosing, deciding, I don't know, not deciding, which is deciding. And all of that happens on its own. There's just no one, nothing that, it's just impossible. So there's no way to behave. There's no right way to behave. There's no actual behavior. It just seemingly happens, because all of these are just words, explanations that make no sense. They make no sense to a so-called seeker. Let's put it like this, to a so-called seeker. Because whatever the seeker could find is bound to be disappointing. Bound to be. Even if there's a moment, and a moment that lasts weeks of, wow, I found it. Now this is it. Well, this is not it still. It's still only what's happening. And what's happening is it, but it's not it for someone. It's not it for anyone. There's no moment of there's no final moment. So there's no choice, and there's no choice to lose. There's no decision, and there's no decision not to take. There's no unhappening to be or to become. There's no one, and there's no one to lose, to not be. All of these are just ideas. Beautiful, wonderful. And those ideas don't need to change. They don't need to be anything else than what they are. They can't be anything else than what they are, because it's what seems to be happening. And it's never not what's happening. It's always what's happening. So maybe it can seem like this character here has found something. He's talking about something he knows. He's talking about things that can be shared has something that other people don't have. There is, whenever someone wants to talk, just unmute yourself, all right? Okay, so as a host in Russian, maybe, yeah. So yeah, you see, I forgot what I was saying, which is so completely irrelevant because everything that is said is just, again, everything that is said. It just doesn't matter. There's nothing here that is shared. There's no one that knows whatever is happening. And there's no one that holds a truth or anything that can be shared to enlighten the world. Maybe not needed to intro, yeah. There's just nothing really happening. But everything appears to happen. And nothing needs to be remembered. It's not a lesson that's being given. This is absolutely not the teaching. This is not a spiritual thing. It's not a scientific thing. It's nothing. It's just nothing. It's the wonder of apparent people, apparent character, meeting for no reason, and yet they meet. Maybe because somehow at some point, maybe, and that's just a story, but maybe at some point there was this, or there is, you're kind of fed up with everything being negotiated, something offered, and that you never get it. So then the magic happens. You come across that kind of message, which is in no way a message, but that you come across that kind of communication, which is simply saying, there is nothing on offer. There is no response. And better yet, there is no question. There's no love to find because everything is already love, appearing as something else. So it seems anyway, but it's not something else because there's no one, there's no way, there's no knower, there's no one that actually knows what is seemingly happening. Nothing. Nothing. Oh, there's just so many people leaving. It's coming. It's maybe leaving too. I don't know. It's amazing. Isn't that amazing? Apparent people coming for no reason. Because really, you won't live here with something that you have found, with an enlightening moment. Hopefully, we're having a nice moment, maybe. But if it's not a nice moment, this is it anyway. This is not even claiming that this meeting has to be nice. God. Because well, it doesn't have to be nice. Well, it is nice. But not in the way that whomever wants to hear it. This character, he used to know many things. Used to teach those things, claiming, I don't know them. And that never happened. And yet that wasn't wrong. There never was a moment in life where you were wrong. Or there never was a moment in life where you were right. There never was a single moment. This is not a moment in time and space that is actually real. And it's not denying that it is apparently happening, but it's not full of realness for a character that exists. And I'm not saying the character should go away. I'm saying the character is just what it is, a character. There's no one doing the character. And there's no becoming for any character. There's no evolution in that way. In no way. Nothing. And that's wonderful. That's love. Unconditionally so. That's freedom, appearing as whatever it appears. So this is saying there's no one to find freedom, and there's no freedom to find. But that will be imprisonment. I mean, if freedom is to be found, then there is imprisonment. And all of these are just ideas. Freedom, liberation of the mind, liberation of the person, liberation of anyone is an idea. And that's freaking wonderful. Because this is it. Regardless of the seeming happening, which is just a seeming happening. Nothing, being everything. It's all energy in the form of whatever is happening, a voice, sounds, being hungry, being angry. But there's no one to be angry or hungry even. Hunger happens, anger happens, maybe, and that's uncontrollable. There's no question. But if there are questions, comments, things that if you want to just chat, just have a laugh, really, because we were having a laugh. Because there's nothing on offer. If that's not the funniest joke in the whole fucking universe, tell me what is. And it's not saying there is a universe. There is an apparent universe to an apparent character, but there's no realness to a character, nor is there realness to a universe. So if there are questions, comments, things that you want to share, talk, then raise your hand and or just start speaking and we'll talk about that. No response can be given because there's just no response to anything. Or let's say a response is triggered, but it's not an answer. Maybe it's, I don't know, doesn't matter. Maybe it makes more sense to put it like this, but nothing needs to make sense because guess what? Nothing actually makes sense. And there's no need to guess that. Because guessing doesn't make sense. But guessing can happen. And it's all just, all of it is the simplicity, the uncontrolled, the never reached, apparent happening. Okay? So if anyone wants to say something, share something. Then go ahead. We have Roy joining. I could quote this guy Roy forever, but I don't have the memory for that, but really amazing. Roy roaring.
Max
sharing. So yeah, Roy, I was just saying if anyone has questions or wants to share something, please go ahead.
I wanted to say that I showed up to see Maxx, literally.
Yay!
When Jennifer, when I can't see anyone else on the screen, so I don't know who's here, but when Jennifer said that, I was like, all right, everything's dropped. Everyone needs to get on over here. Because there's something, you know, I watched just about every video you have, I think, this morning. I watched quite a few. And there's always something shining through. Because it's not about the words. It's not about the words. It's never about the words. So there's something so purely, obviously blinding that really no one should wait on a so-called Roy. They should be here right now. You know, so that's why that's why it was posted on the page. I'm like, no, this is the biggest thing happening right now. Maxx is maxing. You know, that's freaking incredible. That's incredible. That's all there is to say here. I mean, this being here is so remarkable already. That can't be explained. It's absolutely incredible.
There's no beating what's happening. And beating what's happening is what's happening anyway, so you know.
Yeah. So like we were saying earlier with as long as there's something seems to be inside of something, in control of something, then there's a thought that, oh man, I can play the lotto and win $1 million. And it feels like there is a such thing as $1 million, which is going to bring something here, which isn't here already. It's amazing that when that, and I just referred to that thing as a little bastard, if you saw it on the site, but Jennifer asked about, she said, well, Roy seems very capable and I think he can figure it out. And I said, actually, that little bastard in reference is dead and it was only a thought. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
In absence of that thing, which really is, there isn't even an understanding to how it ever happened so real. There is just amazement. So there is something that can look back at that thought and call it the worst fathomable name there is and roll in laughter at that name calling, you know, because it's insignificant.
That's what I was saying, really. I could listen to you all day, really.
Well, this, I'm telling you, this needs to silence because Max is maxing, man. That is why this is here. What this sees is everything, and it's stunning, beyond measure. It is maxing to this that isn't present is $1 billion. And that may not be seen as long as there's someone that is waiting for Max to say a special word. Exactly. This maxing is the miracle. And anything that could have existed here as a reality was burned to a crisp earlier watching Maxx. So there you go. All right, so this is silent. I'm just here to laugh.
Speak as much as you want, buddy. But yeah, and it's just that's it.
Do I not have a camera on or something?
You can put it on. I don't know why actually it's because I see no one that has the camera on. I don't know if it's my fault because
I can see Vic and I can see Mohammed.
Right. Okay. So anyway, it's probably people's choice. No worries. But there's no one to be seen anyway, guys. So no worries either. But yeah, it's. I mean, in response to what Roy is saying, it's just it's so beautifully said, and it's just so long as there's someone waiting for this something that might be said, that might be this moment of this is it. Now I get it. Now I'm free. Now this guy, he. I mean, the way he talks, come on, he's got something. This is the illusion, and what this is saying really is there is no fucking illusion. This is it. There's no realness to lose. There's nothing that's just nothing on offer. Nothing being said, explained is an actual saying or an actual explanation, because there's just nothing happening. And it's not because, as in, it is the reason why, because there is no fucking reason why. And this is just absolutely wonderful. Just this very meeting, which is not a real meeting, which is not really happening, is the miracle that is not understandable by anyone, but so many someones try to understand it. And boy, I was the first. And I'm talking, I was as if there actually was someone doing it, but never was anybody doing it. This is just, so how could you understand that? Nobody understands that. Yet this is blindingly obvious that it's all only what's happening. Apparently. that word drove me nuts. Apparently. Yeah, it is a fucking wonderful word, but it's no better than saying whatever. Because really, this whatever, this is a laugh here. This is a laughter for no reason. Really, we're talking about what? About nothing. And so there might be the idea that someone is talking about something special because someone has something special to give or has gotten something special. But that's just an idea. That is just an idea. And no idea is special. Nothing is unique. Yet everything is unique, maybe in appearance. This is not understandable. You can't make an understanding understood. You can't make an explanation better or worse. You can't say a word that is right or wrong. You can't fuck it up. There's just no one fucking it up. And fucking up happens apparently in this thing we call life. Yeah, wonderful. Seriously, wonderful. But the whole backstory, I shouldn't have done it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it can happen. It's all fine. It's all fine. It's not even about the shouldn't, but shouldn't doesn't really exist. Holy shit. Holy cow. Holy freaking cow. Absolutely wonderful. So anyway, I blah, blah, blah as well, just like Roy. I'm going to shut up. And if I'm going to try and shut up. But there's no choice in that, so I don't guarantee anything, guys. But I'm going to shut up. And if anyone else has questions, I think, actually, let me see. I think I saw questions in the chat. Let me check. All right. So, Rob is saying there is addiction to this and that. Does this from with the me? Does this come with the me, I guess? Rob, I guess.
Hi, man. I meant to say, does this drop with the me? But
all right. Does it drop with the me?
Yeah.
There's no way to say that. There's just no way to say that. No, none whatsoever. It can absolutely happen, but there is no me dropping. You see,
yeah.
the very idea that a me drops is an idea. So when you hear things like "there's no one," and I remember you were commenting on one of my posts, like it drives me nuts or something. Fair enough.
Oh yeah,
honestly, fair enough.
Yeah. Sorry.
Hey, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I get annoyed by the people. I don't get so annoyed by you, but some of the speakers, they annoy me when they say, "Oh, this is all that's happening," blah 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 blah. It just annoys me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, maybe there are not so many ways to say it, and actually there are many ways to say it. But the point is, no one is not an objective to find. Who? I mean, this is just a mind trick. It doesn't mean anything. But who would find there is no one? I mean, who would actually find there is no one? This can only be a thought claiming, I own this thing here, this which is not a thing, but I own this Maxx thing, let's say, and I know that that there is no one, or that there can be no one. And all of this is just the idea. There isn't anyone, it's just a pointer, an explanation, you could say, but pointing to nothing, because really what's happening really is nothing. So, and so this doesn't claim that this is an answer, you see? And this doesn't have the will to save you, because this does not recognize you, because this does not see any people, or you could say any realness to a so-called person. Let's put it like this, if you prefer. All the same ultimate. There's just no answer. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's not even true. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So addiction, sorry, go on, Rob.
No, you carry on. That's fine.
Well, addiction can happen. You see, this thing here has been on and off cigarettes for months now, really on and off. Today is supposed to be my last day again. I'll tell you tomorrow, right?
You've been on, right?
What I will say, however, is that you see the feeling of I shouldn't, it's just gone. There's no, it's not even gone. It never was there, but there's no realness to. So there can come the thought, well, you know what? I just want to quit smoking. Yeah, and I do quit smoking. That's just what's happening. But then, yeah, I mean, there can be a physical thing, or not even a physical thing, but something triggered, like, oh fuck, I want a cigarette. That's what's happening. There's no choice in that. There's no control in that. But the realness, if you will, to the very concept of addiction is just a concept. So it's not even, it's not a problem, if you will. But again, it's just a description. This is just a description of an apparent experience that is actually not really happening. This is just a response triggered to the apparent question over that, if that makes sense. And it doesn't need to make sense, but it's just the character hopes for something better, you see? So, yeah. Well, I want to quit whatever addiction it is. Like, I don't know. Can be food for all I know. It's got to be better. And the thing is, that is already happening on its own. And that's all this is saying. So what we're saying has nothing to do with addiction. There is no hope for anything to change, if you will. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just, what would change for whom? Or you could say change already happens on its own. But change for whom? The realness to, I need this, you see? I need this to happen. In a nutshell, that's the search. In a nutshell. And there is no one seeking already. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Welcome, buddy. If anyone wants to say something.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah.
Well, it's Franco, by the way. But yeah, there was some wondering about like real goodness. You know, like really right action, being like really good, seeing through things.
Okay.
Don't know if it's a question or not, but it's more just like a wondering. Like I think from very early in childhood we got this good and bad ideas very much inside, and so yeah, there's just this wondering if there is actually like a real absolute goodness, or it's just another concept.
Oh, everything is a concept, you could say.
Yeah.
See, so yeah, this idea that something should be good or shouldn't be bad, you see, it's just an idea. But yeah, I guess we grow up with these ideas of needing to be a certain way, and with that very idea goes the idea, well, if there is a certain way, right, well, there is rather good and rather bad.
Yeah.
Extremely good, extremely bad, and what I prefer is extremely good, right?
Yeah.
But obviously what's good for you can be bad for me, if that makes sense. So again, there's absolutely no answer to that. What's perceived as being good is what's perceived as being good, but what this is saying is it doesn't matter. It's what's happening. No one's good or bad. There's no one already. There's nothing really happening. This apparent response is not happening. And it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's just not actually happening. So what's not happening is, of course, not bad, no good, if you will. But you could say maybe the feeling of good and bad, sure, you see. But no one knows that. So if, I don't know, smoking is bad, for example. Well, then I think smoking is bad. What do you want me to say? Do you know what I mean? It's just what's happening. Of course, I mean, let's take a very a news subject here. What's happening in Ukraine and Russia? Fucking drives me nuts. Sometimes I don't think of it. Ask me if it's good. Of course, I'm gonna say it's fucking bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it can trigger, I don't know, sadness, anger. Why the fuck would I do that? But not with someone asking it, not with a need for answer. So sadness, boom, for example. And so sadness is bad. What do you mean sadness is bad? You see, those are ideas for someone. For this felt sense of being separate from the rest. I'm separate from good and bad, so I can own good and bad. Who? What would even know that? But if so, there's a feeling of being sad or thinking this shouldn't happen, and it's just what's happened. There's no changing that. You see? It's not wrong. It's the miracle already. I'm quoting Roy here, but it's the miracle already. I honestly, I think I could quote Roy all the time, honestly. But it's just so well put. It's a miracle already happening as it is, whatever is happening.
There's already no one here. There's no one here. So there's a bunch of beautiful faces. For instance, when someone apparently thinks they're going to come and Zoom with Roy, or they think they're going to Zoom with Max. So what's on the other side of a screen waiting for that apparent individual to show up isn't anything that sees an individual show up. So the hair stands up on the arms, not by choice, not in a way that needs to be understood.
I'm
goes
getting
up
you disease, Roy, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it goes up automatically because of all the beautiful butterflies in the room that believe they have a life. They believe they don't have wings, yet they're flapping all around the room, blinding everything in existence already, bringing a world into existence for a self when there is no self. That's the miracle. It's already all the miracle. Every single face on this screen is the miracle. And every single face on the screen knows it's the miracle, but it's having too much damn fun trying to make something out of nothing. And it'll run into a brick wall so hard in its dream, finding out that there's nothing that will be made out of something because there's no one that has something. So looking even when the question was just asked a while ago about addiction, Max, man, you shot the bullseye out of it. When Maxing, you know what I mean? It's gone. Exactly. So there's no one in the end. There's no saint in the end of a life. There's no saintlyhood. There's no one who finally learns how to get a right life right. There's simply everything, full on, nothing in there to try to screw it up, to lift a finger, to have a right to speech. So they aren't actually, even though faces on the screen may speak a story of sorrow, may speak a story of success, this can sit in utter entertainment and delight of that story. If it's suffering, it can cry automatically. but it isn't in response to something. It isn't in response to someone, because there simply isn't a world of individuals. There aren't individuals who make a choice to come and watch Maxx beautifully speak. Okay, there's a mystery playing out in which nothing, believing it's something, shows up to bake in rays of light delivered by what is seen as a Maxx. But the thing is, it's not about the words. So Maxx can refer to addiction for you in your story. It's not going to help you. He can do it for you because he has a compassion that comes out in the form of tears. If someone slaps him, that can come out in the form of hate. But it comes out as it is. It's still the rainbow. There's no one, when no one's looking at that rainbow, it's just a beautifully displaying rainbow. So in seeking an answer to a story that isn't happening, what you're getting back isn't an answer. It's not an answer. You're not even getting back words. And in a world that may appear to be happening there, it may appear that I love Maxx, or I love Roy, or I love Tony Parsons, or I love so-and-so. Because man, that son of a gun has good words, man, and they hit me. No, there's no one there to hit. There's no one with words. And if that strikes something there, it's simply showing there's no room for you in that. You see, because there's a light already shining so brightly on you in everything in that false world of yours that you're not going to survive anyway. You know, that little idea that you are in a world that you really are suffering. I mean, hold on to as tight as you want. Get your claws into anything you need, but you're going to die because you're not happening that way. We are not gods in our own world. And in order for there to be something with its own reality, which in no way can coincide with another's, there aren't two people with the same reality. You know what I mean? Period. So you and your world is based on that godly center that believes it has control. So you don't know actually that there is another who struggles or has a world or has ever had a life. That's an assumption, and it already isn't your assumption. So you can't clear it up. And if you run to someone and pay big money to be handed assumptions, there's no one running to someone. There's no one with assumptions. So it may provide a momentary peace in your hell, but you're still going to die because you ain't there. So even the fear that you're going to die is absolutely absurd. So if you listen to Maxx Maxxing or Roy blah blah, and I don't know what you want to call it. I mean, it's not, it's zero importance because there's nothing behind it. This what you see doesn't live in that illusion. This what you see has no right to speech, has no right to scratching a head, has no right to eat, has no, I mean, apparently, if, let me shine on one light and then this thing is going to shut up because it's much funner watching Maxx Maxx. It just is. But, oh my God. You're not waiting on anything. It's over already. It never began. So the fact that there are faces appearing on a screen with very deep stories or not doesn't matter. And that is the miracle. When that thing is sitting in utter despair from the fact that there isn't a life to be had, because I'm going to tell you, in seeking in a glimpse, this isn't to seek. It literally, it's to provide steak where there is no steak. It's to latch on to a life you realize you don't have to begin with. And I don't care if you believe in that for 50 or 80 years. You may believe right now you have a life that ain't going to constitute a life, and it's not going to put something in a body with a choice. So you can't change it. And if it's miserable, there is light to be found in that misery. But there will not be someone looking that finds that light. That little, and I'm going to say it again, that little insignificant bastard of a thought that thought it was Roy, that had a life, when it stops happening, there isn't actually a place where you can say, okay, well, I did this, I read this, and then Tony Parsons or so-and-so, they did it. No, that's crap. That's religion. That's teachings. That's where you believe you walk into a holy place as a character, something comes down on you, and then you worship it for 90 more years. I mean, that's putting a heaven out there. Okay, what this is saying is that there's already no one there, and there is no heaven out there because you're trapped in silence in heaven already. You are paralyzed in laughter. And no matter if you think you have sat behind controls and steered that little insignificant thing up there around the world, and you made bad choices and you could have did it better, or you did damn good and you're rich and you're better than everybody else. Well, that's still futile. It's not going to last. There's no little basket where you're going to put away your valuables. You know what I mean? And I say that because this character spent 40 years in chasing after success in home repair, or in autopsies for the medical examiners, or in as a paramedic. So there's stages. I kept looking for something different, changing careers. This one didn't have it. And this is the one people get stuck in their whole life. So it must be the next one that's going to bring it. So a total flop, you know. But come to find out, none of that ever happens by a choosing. So there, even in the midst of the worst suffering, there's no one victim to a life. There's no one that's going to know that in the end. There's no one that can change that life already. It's simply falling in love with it as it is without needing to know what the heck it is. That need to know isn't a denial. It just never really existed outside of a thought saying, I need to know. So Max, continue maxing. But anyone here that's watching this, that believes you're sitting there watching this beautiful maxing play out, I'm going to tell you already, you didn't choose to come here. You haven't lived a life, and there's nothing in store. The miracle is the fact that anything is happening there at all already. And there isn't going to be a bad thought that you have after this. If you want to slap Roy across the head right now, that's perfect. You know, there's nothing that can be said to this that won't be responded to likely in compassion. I don't even think this character could be struck for these words and strike back, because it understands that hell. It understands the hell of sitting up on an opposite side of a screen in a belief that someone has something you don't. That's hell. That's the worst hell, because it's a denial of a life waiting for something that's not going to come. You know, this is the character's playground already. The butterflies have wings and they're flying all over already. They're not laying down and crying. They may be seen to be paralyzed in laughter. Go, Max. It's you, Max. I'm here for you, Max.
Thanks, Roy. Well, I think he said it all, but you know, if anyone wants to response, share. Does that answer the question, Franco, by the way?
Yeah, it was very all-encompassing. Oh,
Nice.
estoy ocupado, un segundo.
Cool. All right, if anyone wants to say or share something.
Yeah, sorry, I was interrupted.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh yeah, it's mesmerizing talk. But yeah.
You see this right now, this looking this. Just what's happening.
Yeah, there has been so much fucking noise. Like there has been so much fucking noise in the last months. So I guess it's just the coming out that and
Which is personal in no way. It is personal in no way. And the beauty is that it can appear as personal when there's actually no one to appear to as personal. That's the magic already. So it's okay to wonder. It's okay to not know already. It's okay to be blank and stare. It's okay already. You're the miracle. There's no one here asking a question already.
It's impossible to know anything, in other words, if you will. Like literally, there is no such thing as knowing something. And knowing appearing is knowing appearing, the appearance of, for no one, for no reason. It's not actual knowing, if you will. It's not actual knowledge. It's irrelevant. It's this what's happening. All of it. There's nothing that is not what's happening. Nothing. And there's no search to end, you see? There's no question not to ask. There's nothing that shouldn't be the way it is, because guess what? It's all just nothing already. So of course there's no answer. I mean, of course. There's no one here that knows something better than you do. It's just having fun, honestly. But this thing really used to think it knew. And that was hell. That was fucking hell. Hiding as a teacher, hiding as someone that can bring something to people. It is hell. But it's also the miracle already. Never actually happened.
guess there's not much to say, yeah?
There isn't. But whatever you want to say, I mean, is this. So it's fine. You can't fuck it up. I mean, you can't fuck it up. It's just impossible. That's why it's funny. I mean,
Hi, Max.
hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you. But there is the sense there is someone, and there is waiting for this sense to fall away.
Yeah, that's the hell that's being described, and And the thing is, there is no hell. You see, there is no. So it's maybe you heard, I don't know, right? That this me thing here is something that needs to fall away. That makes sense. I mean, that makes sense. That's the ground for everything. So that's the thing. If there is no one, I need to find that there is no one, or I need to chase away this thing we call self, this thing we call me. But all this is saying is that this thing we call me is the miracle, the never understood apparent happening of their having the feeling, of their being the feeling of being someone, of a realness to things. All the while, this is never controlled by anything or anyone. This is never actually here. This is never actually, and so the hell of the apparent seeking is that there must be an answer to this question: who am I? What am I? And if there is no one, I need to find out that there is no one. But there is no one to find that already. So the so-called self is what's happening. It doesn't go away. It never goes away. That's it already. It's freedom already. You could even say the character, the self, is actually all there is. You could even say that. You could say is all there is, as in it's all there is that seems to be actually happening. It seems to be happening that the character is just, as we were saying, Roy roaring, Maxing, Mohammeding. You see, but there's no one doing that. So in that way, the character is all there is, but all there is nothing actually really happening. So there's no character to fall away. It's just
not the character should fall away. Sorry, not the character should fall away, but the sense that there is someone.
Yeah, that's the same ultimately, if you will. That's the same. You see, there's a belief. No, it's not the character I'm talking about. It's the sense that there is someone. And I hear what you're saying completely. But the sense that there is someone is the apparent character. And the apparent character is the sense that there is someone. And that never needs to fall away. It's just not really happening. And if it feels real when it happens, it is what seems to be happening. It's already uncontrollable. There's already no choice in that. There's already no one doing it. Already.
Okay. As I was 3 years old, I was with my sister. I was with my sister in a dangerous situation, but I remember that in that situation, the seeing was not. The seeing has no center.
Mm-hmm.
But now I feel the seeing is happen through these eyes.
Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, but so then it becomes the story of it was different before. It was better before. I had this glimpse. Basically, I had this experience of no experience. Go it however you want. You see, and it was better, so it should be different. But that's the illusion. That you need to go back to this thing that seemingly happened then. There is no actual then. This is just a memory that is trying to find itself. I mean, and it's impossible. It's impossible. But nothing, you see, nothing that I'm saying can help someone over there. You see, nothing that I'm saying can help you. There's not, in that way, there is no intention whatsoever of helping you, of saving you, because all this is saying is there is already nothing, no one to save. Nothing. And that's the miracle, that this is it. And you can't convince yourself of that. And you can't not convince yourself of that if you're trying to convince yourself of that. You see? So that's the apparent, that could be the apparent hell for the seeker. But this is not actually really happening. And this is just not understandable. So really what we're talking about in a way is the end of seeking, but that assumes that there actually was ever a seeking, that it actually ever was a Muhammad earlier in time that had this experience, and that now Muhammad now needs to go back to it. All of that is just talking happening, just and only talking happening. It's got no reason. It's got no purpose. It's got no direction. It hasn't lost anything.
Can I say something, Max?
Absolutely, yeah, sure.
So, and this is going to be painting a picture. This is going to be painting a picture by no one, but you see in the world how on the TV you hear about global warming or this, all these effects man has had on the world. And now we've got to change it so we don't cause an ice age or whatever they talk about. So see, you can't see yourself, but if there's something that can stand outside of that story, what would be seen is a natural evolution. So just as in the story, a seed is planted in the ground, and then all of a sudden a sprout comes out, and then the plant matures, flowers, goes to seed. Do you see anything in a choice in that? Is there any choice behind that rose that appears there? You know, that's the magic. So the individual that sits behind a screen in search of something, there's nothing maxing that sees an individual. It simply sees a seed that has been planted and it's blooming beautifully already. So there's nothing a Max or a Roy or anyone can do to that. It's already the miracle. So if there's that feeling that, oh my God, I'm losing my mind because I used to have a life and I just can't put a finger on where that person is that had that complex life anymore. You know what I mean? Even if you run to a therapist to try and give you a life back in a bottle, I mean, it's what happens. It's just not real. But I mean, that suffering, the believing that there was a life to be had and do something with, then the seeing apparently maybe in a glimpse or in a flower that there's no one standing there seeing, then the search that's supposed to lead back to that place that was discovered where no one was at, is simply an evolution. So there isn't anyone in it, and there's no one to alter it. There's no one to speed it up. There's no path that's going to make something clearer. You're not going to stop that apparent death. You know what I mean? You're not going to, you can't hear when it was fine, when it was heard after years and years and years and years and years of thinking there was something here going to get somewhere, and it was sure of it. It was sure that's what it was hearing, that I can lose that sense of lack. I can lose it. It'll go away. That sense of judgment of self that's constantly going, I'll lose it. That sense of doership. No. Mm-mm. So it's already okay. It's already okay. I mean, that's really the only words that can be said, is it's already happening without you, perfectly, perfectly. No matter at which stage in that seedling's life it is, it will bloom into a flower. And it won't be the hell that it seems like, as long as there's something there. So it won't be an individual who falls into an extremely lonely world where they're the only individual. It does fall into a world where there is no one, but there isn't even one to know lonely, because it's too full already. It's too beautiful. It's not waiting to see a rose or the next beautiful thing, because the step, the breath, The movement of a finger when no one's moving that finger is already everything. It's too much. I mean, it's uncapturable, it's unowned. And when there's nothing there, believing that there's something else, or when there's nothing there, looking at a world as insignificant, as long as there's something felt to be in a body, coming to see a Maxx or anyone, there's also a feeling of insignificance. Everything that's looked at, as dust is gathered from the dresser, that dust is seen as a problem. You know, that dust can seemingly be gathered by no one and can be gathered as a miracle and tossed in the garbage, and that's okay. Everything is that miracle. There's nothing that says, you know, in a world of human beings, that's why there ends up being Trump supporters and there end up being Trump haters, because the world is a beautiful rainbow. It's got haters and it's got lovers, but none of them are under control of anything. It's just butterflies. So speaking of addiction or will I be nicer? This thing can curse because that's how it did things, apparently. You know what I mean? Before, and there wasn't anyone in it then. So why would that change now? So there you go. So there's no one is even, if you died, if that thing in there that believes it has a life died mid-sentence, anyone walking behind it wouldn't see a missed step. Do you understand? Because there's already no one. So you're already being done beautifully. Even if that thing is looking at a neighbor and saying, that person has more than me, and I need to work as hard as them because I'm riding a bicycle and they got a Lamborghini. That's not really actually a world that's happening. So it's a jail cell that apparent thought is caging itself in, but it's really not even got bars. There's really no one in jail. The butterfly isn't in a capsule or in a cocoon waiting to be born. And there's no one with the key, because that butterfly already can't be captured by a net. You know, it's not going to be harnessed. Every single butterfly on the screen that believes it's someone is the freedom it seeks already, in the form of apparent doership. And it's okay already. It's okay to, like Max said, ask the questions. If you want to ask a question, you're not asking it anyway. So let it spill out. Let that little thing that says, oh, not me, I can't. Well, bullcrap. You're already freaking amazing. Get over it. And there's no one who can get over it. But there's no sense in holding back. You know what I mean? If you want to scream out in laughter, guess what? You're not doing it anyway. So it's already freedom there. If you feel like crying, cry, whatever. It's already there. That's the miracle, because there's no one choosing any of it. And it's never been chosen from day one. It just, I was going to do a Zoom right as Maxx was starting, and I'm like, I don't think so. No. There's nothing better than this Maxxing for this character, apparently. But it was going to be about abandonment. It was going to be about a little boy who wasn't there, who then is having flowers with the girl next to a fence when mom calls the name, and that little boy who wasn't in a body and was just innocence became a little boy and entered into what it believed was a supposed big world, and lived for many years assuming it had choice, assuming it had choice, assuming it had levers. And then out of nowhere came a moment, which you shouldn't look at as special, but it was a glimpse through a little spyglass of a world where Roy was already dancing, free of a thought of ownership. And so then when that thing peered out that spyglass and said, holy camoly, this is freaking wonderful. Now, it couldn't stop the fact that the thought will come back and try to describe that place it wasn't. So it couldn't help that something will come back and try to relate it to an illusion of a world. So that glimpse is, if apparently one has happened there, it's unfindable. You'll never find your way back to it because it never happened to you. So any idea you have about it, how wonderful it was, or all of that, you're waiting on something that will never happen, and that's already okay. When this character worked in an emergency room, okay, it saw people on their last hour of life, last 2 hours of life. It saw agonal breathing. It saw people in huge suffering, right? And it couldn't understand while it was standing next to this individual who was just in a car accident or in shots or something, who was obviously passing on. It couldn't understand why so many times all that agony right at the point of death turned to a smile. And this had seen that 18 years old, 19 years old, 20, in its story, it kept seeing these broken people who are laying there, bloody on a bed in some cases, in such agony, sometimes reaching out, thinking that this character on the side of their bed was going to save the life they saw leaving, But at the moment when it was about to be over in their story, the biggest smile that probably ever came on their face came on. And there was something here that never could get that. And there was no freedom to find in that. See, that character, Roy, may have thought, oh, well, that means that when I die, it'll be peaceful. Yep. Well, maybe they found Jesus or something. You know what I mean? That's all crap already. So, all right, go on, Max. Yeah, so it's just, this is nature at work, but there's no one who's going to sit in opposition of nature to know it unless they're God in a universe. And there are no billions of gods in their own universe. So nothing there, and I don't give a darn what kind of mathematical scientific calculations come up in a story to decipher how a plant grows. Okay, there are books on this crap. Burn them all, because they don't say a truth. There's nothing to stand in opposition of a seedling and to know what a seedling sprouting actually means. Because that is the miracle hidden in you brushing your teeth in the morning. That is a seedling sprouting, when you're not doing it and you haven't ever done anything. So if you think you breathe for a body, guess what? I guess you don't sleep then, because you got a big job to do when you're sleeping, breathing, don't you? There's no body that takes over when you decide to take off. You're not that powerful as in that little bitty dream. So there isn't a brain and someone in a body that is controlling a brain. The brain don't need nothing in that story. I mean, so where would that thing be that's having that thought? It's very apparent. Thoughts have always been random. That's why people run to therapists to try and get medicated to control thought in the story. Because if there was a control over a such thing as a thought of doership, if there was someone that could end it, then we'd all just be medicated, wouldn't we? And it'd just be fine. But would be a story, because there's no one that could even be in that world already. So everything that sits here, there's no convincing. Max is not convincing you're not there, because Max don't see one to convince. Max's hair stands up like Roy's because the miracle is pretending to be a little me with a choice. So there isn't anything in this room or appearing on a screen that actually comes for anything. Everything is just coming to lay on the beach in the rays. There's nothing that truly believes there's going to be something to find. So there also isn't anyone that actually looks at another character that has something it don't have. It's just not the way it works. So there's no one that's going to stop it. But it may be seen in the midst of that hell. And it don't mean that something there's got to go through a 10 or 20-year cycle of evolution either. You know, the apparent wino laying on a street, since he's not a wino laying on the street, can all of a sudden be freedom lighting up a world. So who can stand in judgment of another to begin with when it's all freedom already? Okay, Max. I'm sorry. That was just when he asked that about the thoughts. Like, yes, I see the thoughts changing. Well, first of all, you don't see thoughts. You have never seen a thought. You think you know thought, but you put it into a little box of knowing that doesn't exist. So therefore, it's not real and it's not aliveness. That thought is the $1 million. The fact that something sits there and thinks this is hell is already the miracle, because it doesn't take someone to feel that way. That's the miracle. All of it is the miracle. Stubbing the toe, no matter how freaking painful, when there's no one in that stubbing, that's freaking beautifully painful. Beautifully painful. But there's no knowing of what pain is. There's nothing, you know, people say, oh, well then, maybe it's a denial, maybe that. No, you stub the toe. When this toe is stubbed, okay, because it don't take a me to have a darn toe, number one, all right? It's much more simple than that. You don't own a toe. You don't need a toe. Let it go. Let it go. But it's with everything else. But when the toe is stubbed, that's full on freaking something I don't know. And it causes this thing to say, gosh, damn it. You know, it's just like, what the, you know, and then it's okay, because there's nothing, first of all, that knows what that meant. And there's nothing that needs to do anything with it. So the stubbing of the toe is the same miracle. It's the same magic already when no one's looking. So there's no one to live in a fear. There's no one that dodging cars happens. You know, running from a rainstorm has always happened, and it's not because someone don't want to get wet. You know what I mean? There's no choice in anything. Hiding, running from a sharing because it scares you is it already too. That's already it too. It's already okay. Already okay. And no one chose to come here. And this Roy thing, who has absolutely zero control, or it'd be at work today where it should be 7 days a week, but it don't have an option, and this is too freaking amazing for anything to be in it that does, you know, is going to attempt again to shut up. But that's just a statement of someone who can do it when there's nothing here that knows what's next, because they're in the next and there wasn't a moment ago. So there isn't actually a Roy that is just finishing speaking. So if you've seen a Roy sitting here speaking to you, that's already too much.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. I was about to say, if you want to prove, which there isn't, but if you want to prove that there's no choice, just listen to Roy speaking. He keeps saying he will shut up and he doesn't. And it is wonderful. It is wonderful because he literally can't. It's never. I mean it with, you know, with all the. It's absolutely wonderful, and
it still knows how to exercise somehow a such thing as respect. So it can
Of
wait
course.
for Maxx to stop speaking, because Maxx is the miracle. So it's not going to ever stand up and try to stop anything. I don't give a damn if someone's telling you that God. It's going to sit back and smile at it because it's the miracle too. But right here, yeah, there's nothing. There's utter, what ends up happening somehow is absolute utter poverty. And that poverty that you fear keeps your hair on end. Okay? Because you don't have a life. You don't actually have a job. All right. So if a strive continues to be someone in a world, that's what happens. No one's at fault. You know what I mean? If strive continues and you end up being the freaking president of the world, you didn't do it already. So it don't matter. So there isn't actually one striving. It's utter poverty already. And in that poverty is abundance. And that's why on the site the other day, something registered in a conversation here with Mom, in which no one was having it, and there isn't even a mom. Okay, so it ain't that way yet. Loving that character happens exactly as it did in absence of that little thing that thought it was doing something. It was realized that even in an apparent Bible, when a so-called character, not an idol or someone to worship, but when a Jesus character said something, and I'm not religious, so I can't tell you what exactly, but it was something about a rich man. It's easier for a rich man to go through the eye of a needle. No, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Yep.
Now, if you don't take that and put it in a halo, in a rich context of something special, it's pretty darn simple. The rich man is the one who can't apparently just be without having to know and try and possess everything. So there is actually already no rich man. There already is no eye of a needle which has to be crawled through. Okay, that's a joke. It's already a joke, and people heard that joke said by Jesus and said, "Oh, I'm going to have to work real damn hard if I'm going to squeeze through a needle because I eat too much." So it's just simply saying, let the questions be. Let the questions be. Let life alone. Get off life's back. Get off the character's back. Let it breathe, because all that's happening is suffocation. And you know what? That's okay too, because that suffocation will lead to death of no one. And then there will be everything, but there won't be a one who crawled through an eye of a needle. So give up the search. I mean, you can't even give up the search, but it can be given up. Let it go. Get your claws out of it. Cut your fingernails. You don't need them. There's nothing to grasp. There's just nothing to grasp. And this thing apparently grew. I think I grew 24-inch nails, man, because I knew I wasn't letting go of a life until it was seen there actually wasn't one with a life. That everything in that is the miracle already.
Jesus.
I think someone commented that we're all dead, and Roy answered all questions. I think that's it exactly. Thanks, Roy.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Maxx actually killed the room way before this blah blah claim came out. Because if Maxx if there wasn't something there simply maxing, there wouldn't be something here sitting. Probably. No way. But this is simply, this blah, 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 is simply paralyzed laughter on the floor. There's nothing involved in this. There's nothing involved in this at all. And there's nothing, you know, when the character Roy couldn't even cry. He hid. He was afraid of tears. He was afraid of sadness. He was afraid of vulnerability. And then yesterday, apparently, sits behind a screen with hair sticking to Mars and cries. And then, in absence of doing that, saw all these little hearts coming up and, oh, Roy, oh, Roy. And so that character watched that. The character watched that along with all the other butterflies in the room. And this character cried his freaking eyes out to see that happen without ownership. And so it isn't ever a person that is coming to a meeting that to someone that's going to give something. You know what I mean? It's already the case. And so there is no one. There's no Roy. There's nothing that can truly be looked at and known, because there wasn't a video with a character crying already. And it's okay. And it didn't happen in a world of others in which something needs to feel bad about it. It's absolute freedom. That would be the world of the thought that says that was an effect of me. And that world that's so big and so wonderful or so hurtful or so whatever the heck it is simply happening without you. And shut up, Roy. All right, Max. Keep maxing. Just don't stop maxing.
Well, I mean, there's not so much time anymore for the meeting that I have to go. But we still have time.
I know you don't, but you couldn't help it if you do. But hey,
I couldn't. But if anyone else wants to share something, or
I want to help you grow. I want to help you grow your page to like 800 million people.
Are you crazy?
So we can all just sit here in this. It's amazing. This is so freaking amazing. I'm serious. Everybody needs to get off the phone. Since there ain't no one doing it, invite everybody you know. And then, I mean, this is incredible, folks. This is incredible.
I think we should start doing Zooms together and call it like roaring and maxing or something like that, you know, or whatever, you know.
Yes, great idea.
Actually,
hey,
that'd be incredible.
Tanya is saying, thank you, Max, and Roy has been an extra treat. Roy is the treat. So everyone is the treat. Everyone. I think it's very good. Everyone is the treat. There's no one that's not a treat. There's no one that's wrong. There's no one that doesn't know shit. There's no one that knows shit. It's all good. It's all fine. There's no problem. And if problems appear, it's fine. It's still just what's happening. Because at the end of the day, it's really damn simple. There's only what's happening. Period. I mean, that's it. It's never not been that. It's too obvious. Of course, everyone knows that already. And we're all here talking about it as if there's something else. But talking about it is what's happening. What is there to find, people? There's nothing to find. And this is not preaching that I know that. It's just saying, duh. I mean, of course. So real, unreal, caused, uncaused, questioned, not questioned, right or wrong, beautiful, ugly, good, bad, is still and only what's happening. And there's no changing it. And there's no one to say there's no changing it. And changing it can happen. It's also what the fuck is happening. Also, always, this is just wonderful, wonderfully simple. And again, I'm not saying I know that. And I'm not saying I don't know that. Those very questions make no sense. Literally make no sense. Either or. It's just, wow. Yesterday I was watching, I'm not gonna name him, but a teacher that is kind of known. And I was watching because I felt like, oh, he pisses me off. I just wanted to have a laugh. And you know what? I ended up crying. Like literally, I ended up crying because it was just so obvious that what he's trying to do is pure love. It's completely misguided. It's the same delusion as the delusion of their beings, of their seeking something. And it's the same delusion I was in, so-called wasn't, I never was, but so-called was in not so long ago. And it's just fuck. Like that guy is just, it's wonderfully useless. It's wonderfully bullshit, but it's also just wonderful. I mean, but the apparent difference, and there's no difference, but with this, what's being shared here is that there's no need for a fucking teacher. There's no one that knows something that you don't. And there's no one that brings you something that you can have. Because everything is just abundance, as it is not as an idea necessarily of what's abundant for the individual, but just that the so-called tears and laughter and sadness and anger and whatever else are simply the abundance of life. And that's all it is. And the truth is, no one wants to miss a single second of that. But no one actually misses a second of that. And blah, blah, blah. Then I start talking like Roy, really. I start blabbing, which is absolutely wonderful. But if someone else, what I was trying to say is if there's only what's happening, and if someone else wants to say something about what's happening, please go ahead. Yeah.
Where did you go? Why are there all those teachings? Those I cannot name everybody, but Advaita, Vedanta, whatever, blah 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 blah. When you say you don't need anything, it's just here now. Everything, it's what is happening. What I'm doing here? What I spend all these years for? You make me nervous. I'm gonna fight now.
For no reason. For no fucking reason. For no fucking reason. It's just who knows in the first place if those that when you talk about Advaita or I don't know, other dead so-called teachers or whatever, who is there to know that they actually intended what they were saying as a teaching? Who is there to know that Jesus was a fucking teacher or a guide or anything? No one fucking knows that. It's all just what's happening. It has no reason. That's the huge joke of it all. There's no one to actually know that. Who is there to know that what is referred to today as the uncompromising message or radical non-duality or whatever else is not going to be regarded in tomorrow or in 10 years or I don't know as what is this fucking cult of people saying there is no one? And everyone's going to say, well, of course there is someone. Look here, this and that, and that's maybe the new religion, maybe. But none of this has any sense. It's still always just what's happening. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
It's like make out of it what you want, but it will still only be what it is.
Exactly. Absolutely. So to the question, what you're doing here, I mean, no one has an answer. But again, there is no question.
I know that.
We're talking about the end of seeking, which never actually happened.
So I should just lay down and wait. Okay.
Can't even lay down.
You can lay down and wait all you like. It's still just what's happening. There's still no one doing that. It's not wrong. No one to wait. Absolutely. You want to wait for something, right? And so at some point, something is going to happen. This is it. Now this is it. But this is always it. Every moment is it. And there's not an actual moment. You see, it's just that's the, I guess that's the pain of feeling like a real someone, which can act upon what's happening. Because then, of course, if you don't do anything, if you can't do anything, then of course all you can do is wait. But wait being seen as something that is being done still, with the hope of something to get. But all we're doing here is waiting, and we're laughing about it, you know. Like, literally, that's it. But there's no one that is doing the waiting. There's nothing that is actually waiting. And no one to blame for reactions also. Absolutely. Absolutely. But if blaming happens, blaming happens. Go figure. It's fine. It's all, again, just what's happening. I think. I don't know, really. Hey, we've got Robert here. Lovely to have you here.
Hey,
Nice to see you.
sorry I'm a little late. I was out for a walk and I forgot the time. Anyway,
No worries, no worries.
that's a story.
What happened? Yeah. Even so, TTY1 says, shit, let me read again. Even stories are reactions, no one says, but may feel like that. Yeah, in a way, sure. But no one feels it. But sure, absolutely. It's story. You see, stories have a realness until they don't. But again, even you see that, okay, that's the apparent issue, which is not one, but the apparent issue of what we're talking about here is that whatever is said is misleading. So the closer this character can get to describing what we're talking about is the apparent loss of something. And the apparent loss of something is I would say, is the apparent, is the realness to what's appearing, basically. And so the realness to that so-called character, it's not the end of the character, it's the end of the realness, of the anchor, of the position I know, of the position I am, basically. But all of these are still just words which cannot capture what we're talking about, because really we're talking about nothing. And even saying nothing is still misleading, because it's not really nothing, it's just everything that seems to be happening.
I know I may mess up with Roy right now, but like, what about what about like expressing our individualities as human beings, like yeah, like talents and stuff like that?
That's the beauty already. So it's not being expressed as a human being. It's not being expressed through an individual. It's simply a free flowing expression already, and not one that will figure that out already. It's already beautiful. You're already flying all over the room, shining the sun on everything. But there's no one choosing that. There's no one who will know that. And it's okay already. And that is known because it's in the smile on your face. It's gleaming. There's nothing there that's on the other side of a magic wall. The magic is everything in the room. There isn't a location even for that thing that thinks it has something. That thing that thinks it has something doesn't even know where in the room it's actually located. It's when that thought that is saying it's doing something is no more. It's all the freedom. It's everything and nothing at all, because it's not choosing anything. So there's no significance. Everything is utterly leaving that character speechless already. So for a significance to be put on it would then take someone who can catch it with the butterfly net. And there's no one who can hurt, take a life of, change, alter that butterfly already. It just may not know that it has wings and is flying. It may feel like it's on the edge of a cliff and about to lose something. But there's already nothing to lose, and there's no cliff because that butterfly is so high in the sky, flying in freedom, that there isn't actually anyone there in that thought of suffering. Even the thought of suffering, even the thought of anything can just illuminate the freedom that already is, because there's no one in that.
What do you say?
Yeah, I'm just kidding, actually, just having fun. But yeah, it's I guess it's something that has come along quite a while, because there's always this kind of needing to be special and feeling unworthy and all this kind of stuff. That's that drives the whole imagination towards a great culmination in some way or something. But yeah, it's actually just a play happening. But
that's the puppet show with no puppet master. So all that is going on here right now, since I don't know how many people are here, but this is already the puppet show. So everyone who showed up here, every reaction that comes about in a here that may be believed to be here is the puppet show, because there's no puppet master. There can't even be found something greater who's puppeting through puppets. It's just everything already. It is already the puppet show. So when that thing feels like it's in hell and it drops in anguish, there's no one in there in anguish, actually. So it's even in that, it's okay already. It's just the puppet show. There will be zero understanding, and there won't be someone who stops wanting to know. It just will stop occurring as that world, which was never happening already.
And the amazing thing of that is it's actually already stopped, never started. The search is already done, just like that. Does anyone else want to say something? Otherwise, I think I'll leave it at that for today. It's been already much longer than I thought. It's been absolutely amazing. Thanks, guys. But I don't have to. It's So I live by the sea, right? And there's a, it starts to be mating season for the how do you call them? Seagulls. So it's kind of weird what I'm trying to do to each other. Really. Anyway, I'm saying that because it's what I'm seeing right in front of the window. Now I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? Anyway.
So are you by the water?
Are
you by the water?
I am. Yeah, I live north side of Dublin in a town in a harbour town by the beach. I'm literally. I hear. I don't see, but I hear the sea from my garden. So it's
Wow.
I'm like a 5-minute walk to the. Yeah, it's lovely. It's nice. It's really nice. Yeah. I'll show you pictures. I'll send you pictures. Right.
Do that. Love to see it.
But yeah. Anyway. Anything, anyone?
I missed a bit because I went to the toilet, but what's the point of meditation? What's the point of anything at all, of talents, of wishes, of...
You tell me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. You tell me.
Yeah. I'm not a Jesus like you two.
It's apparently whatever it means to you in your world, but that world isn't happening.
Pretty much.
So you can take one word. You can take one word, and apparently across the globe, it can be taken a billion different ways. You know what I mean? That's the hell that apparently arises in a world, as long as they're seeing a world. But the thing is, there's no boundaries as such. So there's no language barriers. There's no world. There's nothing in between a two, first of all. You know? So, yeah. Mm-hmm. You're just laying on the floor in laughter. You've been paralyzed in laughter, Nina, since the day you believe you were born.
Thank you. I've been paralyzed.
No, you've been paralyzed. You've been laying. I mean, this is a story, but this is the best description that apparently comes up here. Is ever since you weren't the kicker and screamer in that little baby's body. You know what I mean? You weren't the rebellious or angel teenager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've never went and formed a career or got a job or any of that. That's already the miracle.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And in all of that, while Nina thought she was behind levers, pulling controls, blaming herself for the hell she's created, or congratulating herself for the rights. During all of that, Nina was on a floor, paralyzed, unable to move, laughing her butt off. Unable to even look, unable to even, you can't even, it's so freaking hilarious already, this joke being played on no one, that you can't stop the laughter to even look out of the eyes to see what the character is doing. You don't even have the right to peer out of that window and know what is going on. It's already not a playground where someone can own it and dabble in it. So everything that has happened for Nina, while Nina's laid paralyzed in laughter, taking a break, has been perfect already. And that's what I say. So if Nina never gets up from that floor of laughter, paralyzed in laughter, to look out of those eyes on that apparent character, so what? Because there's no way that character is going to run into a situation that's a reality. And it's going to be laughing. It's going to be flying and soaring, even when it may think it's on the ground crying. It's already soaring so high, there's nothing that can touch it. It's untouchable. absolutely untouchable. So even as the question is being asked, there absolutely is not a Maxx or a Roy who believes that question as something that a Nina believes is a reality. Because we can see in the absence of anyone or anything that all you're doing is laughing like a crazy fool and you can't stop it and it's all right. And it makes the hair on the other side of these screens stand on end because that laughter doesn't cease to exist. That paralyzation doesn't cease to exist because Nina apparently thinks she's lost. It's laughing at that apparent loss already that isn't happening. It's laughing at itself already. Okay already. Okay already.
Thank you for taking me that serious.
Nothing was taken serious. Nothing is here to be shared. Nothing here has a purpose. And somehow this thing that can't shut its blah blah, it's just simply a response to something that already isn't happening. It's like a fire hose on a fire that never was burning. You know what I mean? There ain't no firehouses. There, you know, a church is kind of like a big old firehouse over the nation of people. And people think they, in their story, run there and some preacher stands there with a big ass fire hose and extinguishes the flames of Satan or something. You know, give me a break. It is the way it is. There's nothing wrong with that, with running to that fire station. There's nothing wrong running to the therapist because no one's ever done any of that. It's all okay. It's all the beauty. And there's in all that seriousness that may be playing out from beyond that spyglass isn't gonna ever be serious enough to stop that paralyzed laughter. There's no one with feet who can get up and change a course of a life or needs to, because it's not a reality. No one has a life. No one has a brain. No one is smarter than another. All right, anyway, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
And to be honest with you, if you think that something popped in to a Maxx sharing and is sharing alongside a Maxx, you're already wrong. Because there isn't a Maxx or a Roy already. There's nothing to share. And there's no one who came here to listen, period. Appearances do not constitute reality. That is a dream, point blank.
And what seems so impossible to get is that this, what he said, is just unbelievable. I mean, if you hear things, no one came, and no one's talking, and no one existing, and no one has a brain, literally, you cannot believe it. But of course, because it is literally unbelievable. It's just a description to describe the unrealness of this so-called character that takes himself so fucking serious. It's not. It's a joke. Everyone's a joke. Everyone's a fucking clown. And some take themselves very seriously, which is fucking hilarious because they're fucking clowns. I mean, it's wonderful. And taking itself seriously is perfectly fine too. I'm not saying that should change. I mean, sometimes I take myself seriously. Sure. You know, darling, what the fuck is that? Whatever. I don't talk that to my wife. I don't think so. No, I don't. But do you know what I mean? I mean, sure, whatever. But that is not serious either.
Because it's everything already.
Yeah.
No saints in the world.
Oh, sorry, Roy. Sorry.
No, I said it's everything already. So there's not a
It is?
problem with an argument with the spouse. There's no one ever who stood in opposition of a spouse to argue.
Yeah.
So when that little thing creates a big story of how, oh, what if I didn't say that during that argument? What if I need to go back and make amends? Maybe I should bring flowers. That all already is happening without anyone. But in the absence, that argument can play out, and it's not in correlation to a story. It's not known as a problem. It's not even known as coming from a problem, and it's not being presented to another for change. So that argument is already the miracle. Everything's the miracle, because nothing is already happening in response to another, even if it appears to be a response to another. There's nothing that is in a world of others, so there's no cause and effect. There's no one who hates another. You know what I mean? Yes, hate. Everything belongs. Everything has its place in that rainbow, but there's no one in possession of any color of that rainbow, or any aspect of it, or any facet of it. You know, so if someone gets off a sharing and sticks a needle in their arm to provide a sense of solitude to a character by injecting something, who knows what, that's simply happening too. There's no one at fault, but there's also going to be no peace found in that search, because that is a search in a world which isn't happening to a you. You know what I mean? So at the same time, like Max was saying, or someone said, does addiction drop? No, because addiction was, if, for instance, this may blow your mind, Roy has smoked cigarettes since Roy was 12 years old. All right. Now, in absence of Roy, guess what? As soon as the sharing's over, this character's going to go have a cigarette. But you know what? Do you know what? There is a very clear awareness that is only going to apparently last so long, because there's no longer a need here for it. So it's realized there was never anyone smoking a cigarette, so there's no one who needs to end it. But somehow those things that seem harmful in a story that may be occurring will probably unoccur, because there's no attachment to them as a need. You know,
I couldn't agree. Sorry, I just couldn't agree more. Really, it's you've said it's exactly the same here. It's just I smoke. I'm gonna have a smoke now, but it's just the realness to the need has gone.
Yeah,
that's
there's
it. Has gone. So it's like it's clear. There's no way this character is going to keep smoking forever. But when, how, and whatever happens, no clue, and no trying to know that. It's just obvious that it's just somehow what's happening. That's where it's heading. And I think that's the beauty of that, because all the while there is no absolute knowing, there's no absolute in what's being said right here, right now, and there's no guarantee that this is what will happen. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there's no doubt that it's what's happening. I mean, that's fucking incredible. And that doesn't come from someone that knows this. It's a response to what Roy is saying, because there was a massive, like, holy shit, it's exactly what I'm experiencing. Mm-hmm. Except there's no one really experiencing it. Sorry, go on.
So that, no, you don't need to not say sorry. I'm the one, blah, blah. But so there may have once been something that thought there was a such thing as a cigarette that made life a little smoother in tough circumstances in that life or something. But so when that something that had a life is gone, that it seemed that there's no value in that, and that it never was being done by anyone. So it somehow that cigarette came about from a search which never happened. So when it seemed that no one is searching, it will apparently be okay for that cigarette to fall away because there's no one choosing and smoking or not. It's no value. It's so insignificant. You know what I mean? So it's not when a cigarette smoke, there isn't any, it's not happening with anyone. So there isn't anything got through it. So I think that today, in comparison to in a story a year ago, there may have been, and I can't even tell you that because that would have to constitute someone being there, but there may be a comparison to 2 packs to maybe a few, because it's kind of like it didn't take anyone to wean. It just wasn't needed. It's like you break your leg, you need crutches from a doctor. They're gotten in the story, and then when they're not needed, they go. Now, do they need to go? No, because there actually isn't anyone with a life who will suffer consequences from a cigarette. Do you understand? So there's nothing that says, oh, well, now that there's no Roy, we better clean up this act. No, it will happen or it won't happen. I doubt there will be any further seeking in a substance to get somewhere. You know what I mean? So I don't imagine a new thing will creep up in a story because there isn't something in the middle trying to fulfill a hole or void through nicotine or something. You know what I mean? But it wasn't in place because of anyone already. So it's not a problem already. All right. That's it.
All right, folks. I think that would be it for today. If you want to prove again that there's no control, and of course there's no proving there's no control because that would be control, right? But if you want any proof of that again, I planned this meeting to be at most an hour and a half. It's been 2.5 hours. Does that make? I mean, it's been 2.5 hours. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's not a proof or anything. It's just again the minding. You could say, I don't know, but it's always like that. We think we know, we never fucking do. I mean, it's that simple.
And there's nothing here, Max, that can't say. I mean, that 2.5 hours just left something speechless because it can't be decipherable for 1 minute. You know what I mean? There's not when that world isn't there. It's like there's nothing here that knows this incredibleness wasn't contained within that me's world.
Oh no, sorry, 2 hours. 2 hours. Sorry, not 2.5. 2 hours.
See, hearing that, that blew the mind here because it's like there's nobody actually in it to get tired of it, even when all that feels to be going on. So that 1 minute can feel like an eternity, or that eternity can feel like 1 minute, because there's actually no clock on the wall that knows a thing, period. You know, and other than the appearance of a day or a night or a month or a year, there's no one who's actually awake to know that. So it is just what is. You know what I mean? Whatever.
All right, guys. For the ones interested, next weekend, if anyone speaks French, I'll be having one in French again.
Yeah,
yeah, you will, right? Oh.
Right.
But and otherwise another one in 2 weeks in English. But I'm pretty sure we're gonna do more, especially if Roy comes, because there seems to be. Yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking we can do another one maybe a lot earlier, because if people come like that and then Roy on top comes and we talk about nothing. There's still nothing to say. It lasts for 2 hours. I mean, that's a fucking miracle happening. So
let's do it. Let's do it like 3 times a day. What else is there? You know?
What else is there? Yeah, 3 times a day. Let's do it. All right, folks. Thanks very much. That was lovely. That was really good.
Thank you, Max.
Thank
See you
you.
soon.
Yeah, thank you both. All
Yeah,
of you.
both.
Wonderful.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks, Max.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Nina.
Okay.
Thanks, Roy. Thanks, Vic. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Oh, so many people. Mohammed, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
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 Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thanks, Max.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.